Alright guys, I'm gonna wait for like 5 more minutes and see who all can join, and then I'll start. Would that be okay? Hi, thank you so much, Anuj sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's actually my pleasure than yours. So should I wait for 5 minutes to see who all are joining and then I would start? Or would you want me to start right away? Perfect. So are you safe with the lockdown? Alright, can everybody hear me? Can any of the students ping if I'm audible? Hello? Perfect. Could we have 2-3 more responses and then I would possibly start in like a minute. Thanks, Rahul. Sure. Is it better now? Perfect. I would rather place it somewhere. Cool. Can you hear me now? Is it close enough to the mic? I don't want to be that loud though. Thanks, Sanskar. All right, guys. I think Anu sir, I should start or should I wait? Let me know whatever you feel. Perfect, sir. You give me a go ahead and then I would start. All right, guys. Hi. As you all know, I'm Arundama, and I've been working with Zycus since 3 years. I'm an alumni from Ellen City, 2013-17 batch. And let me just give you a brief in a few lines. So I work with. All right, sorry for the interruption. So as I said, I've been an alumni with Ellen City 2013-17 batch. Let me give you a brief of my journey as to how I got into Zycus. So first things first, I started to prepare for my interviews, and just as you guys are in the moment, from the 6th and 7th semester itself. And I was lucky enough to get 3 offers in my 7th semester itself, and got my opportunities around October, September. So I would really suggest you guys to be, get your horses on and make sure you prepare well. And that's how I'm going to give you a gist on how to prepare for interviews. That's 1. 2, do's and don'ts for interviews. And the third would be the major question that people ask, the recruiter asks about tell me something about yourself. So those are the 3 major things that I'm going to cover today. Is that fine? All right. So first things first, as I mentioned, my transition from Ellen City to Zycus, I'm going to talk about that. I was one of the TNP volunteers, and that had a major help to me because I had a lot of exposures as to how my seniors were preparing, and what kind of questions the companies would ask, and that gave me a lot of exposure as to what can be asked, how I need to prepare, and how I need to maintain my decorum when I am giving the interviews. And of course, what's more important is the presentation that is being given. So a lot of people lack the first thing, that is, you do not read about the company, which is the worst thing. So as a senior exec with Zycus, I got recently the opportunity to go for recruitments, and I almost interviewed about 3,000 folks in Pune. And that's how I actually got to know what people look for or what companies look for in students. So let me tell you one thing. The only key to your success is confidence. And nobody else can boost you. It's just you who can do it. One thing, stop spoon feeding yourself. Don't wait for somebody to tell you that you need to do it. Rather, prepare yourself better. So as I mentioned, the first thing that I'm going to cover is how to prepare for an interview. First things first, you need to ensure whatever company is mentioned to you, what kind of role is being mentioned to you, you learn about it well. So for instance, I was told about Zycus. So I went ahead and made a Google search myself. Rather than asking my peers, my friends, what are they doing, how are they going to prepare, I started to prepare myself and started to understand, what the company does. So you go to the websites, you read about section. So there's always going to be an about, career, options, opportunities, and their products. So there are 2 kinds of companies. There would be service-based companies, or there would be product-based companies. So Zycus was one of the product-based companies. So I read about it. For instance, it deals with procurement. Then I started to study about what procurement does. And then I started to understand, what kind of role it is. So I started from an associate, then I got promoted to an executive, now a senior executive. So I started off from, say, 8 lakh package, and now I'm close to 13. So that's the kind of jump you get when you self learn, when you make sure that you're learning by yourself and not waiting for somebody else to teach you. So that's the first thing. That would be a prerequisite. That would be confidence. So for that, you need to ensure you do your SWOT analysis. So I think most of the people, they tell you about your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is something you need to do yourself, your SWOT analysis. Now, as an interviewee, what I see in people is not just confidence. The other thing that we check is presence of mind. Presence of mind is something that would come when you are well aware with the environment that's coming in. So make sure you're at the tips with when it comes to what's there out in the market, how people are reacting. Say CAA would be the recent topic. Say coronavirus. Say what recession is going to cause. What are the shortcomings that are going to come in future? How our fiscal is shifted now. So it's not just about technical stuff that you need to know, but a lot of things. So, for instance, I'll tell you what. There was a very basic question asked to one of my friends. It was, a guy, the interviewer, gave her a piece of paper. And at that very instant, he asked her, what, can you tell me 2 uses of it? And can you do something innovative out of it? And what she did, and there were 2 people. So the other girl, she started to make a rose out of it. But my friend, she just folded the paper in 3 and said, this is the bookmark. So that kind of presence of mind is very important, and you need to be on your feet. How will you do that? Nobody can teach you, right? So once you start to read all of this, you understand how the world functions. You make sure that you're well aware with things, and that's how you can react. All right, let me know if you guys are still feeling it fine, and then I'll go forward. All right, keep commenting. The other thing you need to prepare for the interview, as I said, go on Glassdoor. Read about how the companies interview the campus recruitments. So you get a lot of insights from Glassdoor. If you just type, say, ABC company, Glassdoor interviews. So you will get to know if they actually ask you about just technical questions, or they are the companies that maybe ask you about case studies. One of the interviews I was asked, if you know the VA, which city do you belong to? I said Bhopal. They asked me, which is your favorite place? So I said the VIP road. So the interviewee then asked me, how many cars do you think pass from that VIP road in 24 hours? Or how many streetlights are there in that? So you can't really give them a number, right? You just need to run with the logics. You can tell them, the breadth and length is this much. The area covered would be this much. A car covers an area of, say, 6x4 on an average. So this is the number that I can get. So they're not looking for the exact number, but they're trying to get the logic behind what you're doing, how you're thinking. All right. I told you about your confidence. That's the main thing. And I'll tell you something. If you practice as I'm speaking with something like this with your friends, and specifically in English, even if people laugh at you, because this is one thing that I've always seen. So even in the presentations that we give as the recruiters, we go to colleges and we give them the presentation as to, what kind of role that we have to offer, what the company does. And people shy away from asking questions. I mean, that's really not the way to go, because right now at that moment you would think that, it's a stupid question and people might laugh. But at the end of the day, you need to think, will these people will stand with you in the next 10 years? Will these people will be are these people going to be paying you? You need to make an informed decision. You need to understand, are you well prepared for the company? A lot of people came in and they were really good. They were confident. They had good skills, business acumen, everything was right. But when I asked them about the company, what kind of products do we have to offer? And they were blank. So there's always a line between being smart enough and being overconfident or being arrogant. Make sure you don't cross that fine line. Make sure you're very humble and you answer the question by taking time. All right, Shivam, as you asked about my success. So I started off as an associate in Zycus. And the next ladder was being executive, and the other one was senior executive. So within 2 years of time, and now it's going to be 3, so I'm due my next promotion. I got promoted twice, and I started off with a package of 8, and now I'm close to 13. So that's my success story. And campus recruitment actually helped me a lot because it gave me the push from the beginning itself. So a lot of people, a lot of folks from even my batch are still finding jobs. But luckily, I didn't have to face that kind of problem. And with recession coming in, I think you guys should be very well armed with your arms and ammunitions to prepare for the next interviews or whatever company is going to come in, so that you hog on to the next opportunity. Because people are not going to right now look for the ones who are going to shy away, or maybe are introverts, are just going to sit back and not going to do anything. People are now going to hunt for the ones who are opportunists, who are very confident, and who can be an asset to the company. It shouldn't be like, you're sitting there and, in a meeting, you're shying away and people are discussing and you do not have any thoughts and ideas. Sagar, my CGPA at that point in time was 9.6. All right, good question for debate. One thing, debates are never the process of an interview. It's always GD, PI, or case study. So these are the 3 or 4 rounds. It would rather be a writing skill round. I mean, there would be aptitude or logical reasoning, your written test, and then would be GD and PI. And to tell you one thing, Zycus had 8 rounds, and out of 2,500, that would be close to 3,000 people, I was the only one that was selected from our college. So I think that would answer your question, Shivam. All right. So how do you prepare for written rounds in technical subjects? All right. For your written, I would suggest you to, one thing that I need to tell you. Always, the one thing that people put up as a mistake is everybody practices, everybody does their written section, and they would make sure that, they're studying a lot, they're preparing a lot, and they would cry about the fact that, I'd been practicing for 24 hours and I did more than the other person, and yet she got selected or he got selected and I couldn't. The only reason that they don't get is because they don't time themselves. So while I was preparing with the normal RS Agrawal or RD Sharma, AK Sharma, the other aptitude for MBA, CAT exams, that was the book that I prepared for the written skills. I make sure I timed a lot. I timed myself, and I gave every written test that was given by the TNP section. That helped me a lot. All right. How to improve your communication skills? There's just one thing, Gaurav. You need to ensure that you're speaking in English with your friends or whomsoever you meet. Even if you say it wrong, make sure you start to speak, because you need to make sure that your thought process is starting to be in English. So right now what people face is they think in Hindi, convert it, and then speak in English, right? You need to ensure that you start to think in English. Read a lot of newspaper. Like, that would be the first thing that you need to do. First page is really important. Read it daily. If you can't read a newspaper, put apps, use Instagram for the best. I have about 8 pages that I follow, be it Economic Times, Washington Post, Times Now, CNN, BCC, and I read a lot. I make sure that I'm reading a lot. At least 1 hour of the day I dedicate myself to reading, and of course I would make sure that I talk in English. What work do I do in Zycus? I am a senior executive business development. Business development comes into the, I'll tell you in very layman terms, I am the face of the company. So whomsoever, it's practically sales, but not direct. So I kind of talk to people. I try to understand their business challenges. I talk to CPOs, CFOs, that would be CEOs, chief level executives, directors, VPs, try and understand what are their challenges, how do they function, and then promote my business. So last year I made across 1 million business for Zycus. For second year students, I think the first thing that you need to do is start volunteering a lot. I mean, you have the time to do everything in the world. Make your resume, build your resume. Make sure your resume is just 1 pager and at max 2. It shouldn't be long story. All right. You need to ensure that you just have 1 page that talks about you in brief, about the projects that you're doing, about the kind of volunteering that you've done, and the kind of say certificates that you have. So for instance, I had for my I was a national level champion for badminton, so I had put on that. So basically, when the interviewer asks you about, tell me something about yourself, they're trying to ensure they have one small talk starting point. They don't know you, right? You need to tell them that you are an interesting person, that you can talk and be a part of their team and asset to the company. How would you do that, right? So that's it. What is the scope of data science students to get a good offer in LNCT? Any kind of branch, from mechanical to civil engineering to data science, and right now, by the way, data science is at the boom. because big data and analytics is something that's running off at this point in time, and it's really well. So any kind of branch doesn't matter. What matters is if you know about the company, if you know about the job role, and you think you'll be a best fit for it. So people crib about the fact that, you know what, I don't want to do a job, and 80% of the people are dissatisfied with their jobs. It's because they didn't prepare for it well. Why would you want to get into that kind of a role? I mean, I love my job. I love going to the office every day, and it's because I chose it right. All right. Before I would answer your question, Shivam, I would. Are you looking further for UPSC? No. I have further futures in sales. At this point in time in business development, I'm going to look for sales and for a better package, and then possibly move forward towards marketing side. And right now I'm thinking about that. All right. Now, major thing that I need to tell you is, let me clear it very quick. So the prerequisites for your interview. Now, you judge people with their first appearance. Please, I kid you not. When people say that they don't judge people by their looks, that's myth. You do judge people by their first looks. So make sure whatever you wear, I think it's mostly the uniform. Make sure you're in your very crisp form. You make sure that you're in your best, because that actually boosts your confidence to maybe like 30-40%. Because when you look good, you feel good, and then you talk good, right? And believe in yourself, guys. It's something that's gonna make you successful even in the future. It's not just one interview. It's just a 30-minute session with somebody that you need to talk. It's just a stranger. You do it over Facebook, guys. You can do it in general, in person. It's just a lot of pressure, and of course interviewers also create a lot of pressure to ensure that they do not recruit somebody who would panic. And people panic like this because they think that they don't know about it. Calm down. If somebody is throwing you a question which you don't really know, take 10 seconds of your time. Ask for more time if you can. Tell them, you know what, it's a good question. Can I just take like a minute and then answer? So if I right now throw a question, say, tell me 5 uses of pen apart from writing. So are you going to be puzzled about it, or you going to take some time and think and then answer me? Don't just blabber or blutter out. Take some time and then answer. I told you about your resume. I told you about your GDPIs. I told you about your look, your confidence. I told you about presence of mind. Now, the other thing that I really wanted to tell you was, tell me something about yourself. All right, guys. So, when you talk to a stranger, you would really want to know about how you can prepare for a small talk. What would a small talk be? Any kind of a topic, or maybe any kind of hobby that would click between the two of us. And then we could later on carry forward the discussion. So it's actually supposed to be a very short story about yourself. So write it down. I mean, make sure when you're preparing how to tell me something about yourself, you have to write a 20-second piece for yourself. I'll tell you how. So prepare it this way. So that guy has your resume. So don't tell me your name again. Don't be like, you know what, hi, this is Arunima, as you know. So don't be like that. It shouldn't be like a parrot speaking that, you know what, I am Arunima Sharma and I'm pursuing BE from Ellen City with electronics and communication engineering. No, be confident. Talk about yourself. Hi, this is Arunima, as you already have read in my resume. I've been pursuing with my engineering from 2013, and my branch is electronics and communication. I come from a nuclear family. My father is a professor and my mother is also a lecturer. I've got a younger brother. He's in college. And further on, I actually enjoy a lot with music, and I've been a national champion with badminton. And as you can see, I've got further certifications with say anything else. Then you can further talk about, I did my major with electronics and communication, and my last project I did was this. So that's how you start to have a conversation. You speak about yourself, and then the person can ask you next. What people lack is, when I first ask you, tell me something about yourself, you would give me a roted answer. In your language, it would be ratified. That's not something that we're looking for. So we're looking for somebody who's confident enough to actually talk about themselves. Are you getting my point? Any other questions that you guys have? Shoot out. I'm all ears to understand if there are any other queries. Perfect. So going forward, I also wanted to tell you something about GDPIs. So most of the people, they have this kind of notion that if you scream a lot, you would be heard, because the rest of the people are probably not being that loud. But you need to ensure that you are being the voice in the room. That's not the case. So people don't really listen to your voice as how loud you are, but they really want to know what you're talking about. So always ensure whatever you're talking is well versed, and you need to make logic while you're speaking and not just shouting. Also, don't be one of those people who shy away, because a lot of moderators do not give the chance. A few of them are very generous to give you the chance by saying that you haven't spoken yet, and you know what, let me tell us something that you have in mind. So that's 1 in a million chance, and they're just giving it to you because you are there to give in the GDPI. But not every time you're gonna get the opportunity, right? So always be the one who's gonna volunteer by themselves to speak. I'm not asking you to become an extrovert, but make sure your knowledge is so much so that you can actually answer. And how you can do that is by making sure that you read a lot. Read newspaper, and I'm again telling you, use Instagram, Facebook to its best. How you can do it? Follow good pages. I'm again telling you, The Daily Show, CNN, Washington Post. If you have another general knowledge pages, search for it, and then have more conversations about those things rather than going around gossiping. Now, Rahul, you asked me a question, what kind of rounds that I cleared in Zycus. So there were 8 rounds, as I mentioned. First was a written test. Then there was a normal communication skills round, wherein they just tested if we could speak or not, because there were up close to 2,500 people and they had to screen, and it's very tough for us to screen people. So we just make sure we give them like a minute of time with a general topic, say global warming. That would be the least. And we just need to hear that, if you can speak for 30 seconds in English or not. It's not based on your grammar or what you're speaking, it's about how you can speak. Then the other 3 rounds were for GD, and then I had another case study round wherein I was given a case study with 12 other folks. And then I had 2 personal interviews. One was here in Bhopal and the other one was in Indore with the panel. So those were the rounds that I cleared. How to improve leadership skills? So one thing, you can't really impose to be a leader. You need to do things to become a leader. You need to take things in charge. When I say you have to take things in charge, it doesn't really mean you need to start dominating people. You need to listen to people. You have to become a very good listener to actually have better leadership skills. You need to know a lot before you could start off, right? So leadership skills can only be brushed when you have humility in you and not dominance. So if a lot of people have this notion, if you have to become a leader, you just have to be loud and dominant. That's not the case. You have to be a good leader, listen to people, but then understand what could be the next logical point and then go forward with it. So if you have a better presence of mind, you would obviously have better leadership skills. And of course, to practice it, volunteer a lot. TNP is a very good platform. LNCT is a very good platform. You've got a lot of events. I think almost every semester there's something. There's one sports event that goes on 1 year, and the next year there's some other opportunity that would come in place. So you could try out your leadership skills there. Where have I done my schooling from? It was from Bhopal, St. Joseph's Convent, Eidgah Hills. How should a good, okay, so how does a good resume look like? All right. So a good resume has to be really concise. I wish I could have shown you mine. I can't really do that with Facebook Live. I need to have another phone. Also, don't really copy other resumes. Please try and make your own. It should be almost just one pager, not more than that. If at max it's going a lot, then probably have just 2 pages. They don't really need to read a book about you. It's just like a 1 or 2 pager, so that it's very concise. So start off with your objective. Maybe talk about something, I mean, your own name, have a photo of yourself in the left. Then there are multiple formats actually. If you just Google it for a better resume, there are multiple pages that you can actually look onto for a good resume, and then you can build onto it. So give your objective, start off with the projects that you've done, your qualifications that you have, then your certifications, then your strengths. Now another thing, a lot of people put in their strengths as I am hardworking, good listening skills, I don't know what not. These are the 2 that I come across most often than not. And when I counter them, how can you prove that you're a good listener or you're very hardworking? They're blank. Whatever you write on your resume, you need to back them up. You need to talk to them. So if I were to actually ask you, what's your weakness? So in one of my interviews, they asked me what's my weakness. So always tell your weaknesses that can be converted into a strength and you've actually worked on it. It shouldn't be like my weakness is that I'm very emotional. That's not going to help me in the company, right? I wouldn't really want an emotional sissy person in my company. So I'll give you my personal example. I said that initially I lacked a lot of time management. I used to get a lot of work and I could not really understand how to manage my time. How did I convert it into my strength? That was a good journey, sir. I started to time my work every target that I got. So for instance, I had 3 functions to do in the whole day. I would divide my day accordingly and make sure that I do it. If I have say 3 hours to do a task, I would make sure I'll do it like half an hour early. Initially, it was very tough for me because I didn't really have better deadlines to do, and that was one of my weaknesses. But now I've made sure that I'm so good at it that I try and be on time and even before as much as I can. So if I'm given a job for say 5 minutes, I'll try my level best to do it in like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's something that actually let me off in the interview. Which one is harder? Are second speakers better than the first speakers? So, all right, another thing. It's not really important for you to become the first speaker. It obviously gives you a better opportunity for the person to listen to you and the other people to actually get to understand what you're going to talk about. But to be completely honest, when I took the interviews, I really didn't care about who was the first one or who wasn't, because I wanted to understand what you're speaking. So I'll give you an example. I asked somebody about global warming. I think was one of the topics that was the easiest one that was given. And the other day I gave a topic about politics. And the first speaker started to speak absolute rubbish, which was not related to anything. So it's not just about you to speak. You know, if it was for politics, the guy started to speak about Hindu, Muslim, and some other religious factors. And my whole simple question was just about CAA. And that was not related to anything. I mean, you obviously can go forward with it because obviously that was one of the cases. But the guy just spoke rubbish. But the second speaker or the third one, they started to make a lot of sense. They actually started to talk about what the article actually talked about, how people are reacting, what could be the logical next step. And that's how I started to listen. So it's really a myth when people say that one should be just the concluder or maybe the initiator. It's about what you want to speak, not where do you speak. So it's good if you start soon, but it's not an opportunity missed if you don't start or end. Whatever you speak should make sense. What was the hardest part for me that I was facing while going through the rounds? Um, the hardest part for me was, I think at that point in time, oh yeah, the hardest point at that point in time was, how people were getting screened off very easily. So I'll tell you what, with the first GD round, out of 16 people, just 7 people were selected. And every time, the with every round, the pressure started to increase. So I had to ensure that I had my cool, I had my calm, and I did not break out with my nervousness. So that was the tough part, because they started to grill me a lot. In fact, my last interview that was taken, the guy, my VP, directly told me that, you know what, you're very desperate for the opportunity, and why should we actually hire you? And I was like, sir, I'm not that desperate, because I already have 3 offers. It's just that this company works really well, and procurement is something as a domain that I'd like to work. And which is why I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to work. And we had a good laugh, and I did get selected. Okay. If someone is not having very good coding skills, is it problematic or not? All right, that would actually depend. So for sales or marketing opportunity, that wouldn't be a problem. But if you're going for a technical company, say Persistent or maybe Amazon or maybe other companies that are coming in, that could be a little problematic, because that would be the eligibility criteria for those kind of companies. But having said that, you need to ensure that you know what the company does, so that you can prepare those kind of coding skills, right? Another thing I forgot to tell you guys, do not lie in your resume. If you are lying, have a backup. If you can actually, don't try and outsmart your interviewee. For instance, if you've written anything about sports, say softball, and out of the blue the interviewee asks you, tell me top 3 sportsmen who play softball, would you be knowing it? So be well prepared. Don't lie in your resume. Always know what you've written, and you need to speak about it well. So yeah, coding skills, I think that should cover it. If it's a technical one, then you need to know it. C, C++, Java, I think R, Hadoop, people are doing a lot of these. So I think that could also be one that you could do. And obviously these are the skills that you can always practice. So practice actually makes the man perfect. So you could try that. Sir, all right, I would like to talk about the final round. So my final round was in Indore, and I had the interview with 2 VPs, 1 director, 1 senior manager, and 2 managers for business development for Zycus. And it was kind of different that I had, because it really didn't talk about the work. It was all about my presence of mind. So as soon as I entered the room, they told me, we just have 5 minutes. If you have anything to tell me, let me know. And they asked me to tell me something about yourself. I told them in the brief that this is what I do. I pursued EC, and I talked to them about my previous interview, because one of the interviewees were there. So I started to share a rapport. And then then they threw a question onto me. They were like, can you spot differences? So I had written something in my resume that is being detail oriented as my strength. So there were 5-6 people in the panel, and then they asked me, can you tell me the difference between the 6 people, apart from obviously the color features and everything? And I picked on the fact that on the collars. So 4 of them had normal tight collars. 2 of them had Mandarin collars, the Chinese ones that come without that flap. It just has like a kurta kind of button, and that's how it started to happen. So they checked my presence of mind, if I was well versed with the company or not. They asked me about Gartner, the recognitions, if in case there were any investments or not. So these are the kind of things that you need to know. You'll have to be well versed. They asked me about the role too, about if I know business acumen, if I know what sales is, what marketing does, what I would be there, will I be a good fit for the company or not? So those are the kind of things that were being tested in my final interview. While concluding a group discussion, I must include all the points of my teammates. Not exactly, but obviously you have to, because you'll be the one who'd have to be the concluder. So you'll have to tell them what all had been the discussion, but obviously concluding it. So be very concise when you give them a conclusion, not repeat what people had told them, but pick some points, add your own, and then tell them. It shouldn't be a cooked story. It has to be something that came out of your own and you made sense out of it. It can't be the repetition of the words that your teammates have said. I hope that answers your question. Tell us something about reading comprehension. Is it important? Reading compression? I think you meant comprehension, if I'm right, Gautam. So obviously reading comprehensions are very important, that give you a very good way to become analytical about how the verse is written, and what kind of questions that could be asked, and if you could pick and make sense out of it. So of course it's important, you need to practice them a lot, and you obviously get better as you practice. Of course, when I was telling you about how to prepare for Tell Me Something About Yourself, this is something that I actually learned from my seniors. They told me how to practice it. So as I mentioned, write it down. Make sure you have it in your hand and on a pen and paper, and practice in front of a mirror, because that's how you see yourself, how you're going to be talking, what are your hand gestures, what your personality looks like. It hasn't to be really shy or timid. It has to be bold and strong. At least the first 30 seconds of yourself should be really nice. And I'll tell you what, in one of my cognizant interview that I sat, I flustered and I could not really understand when the guy asked me, tell me something about yourself. My throat got all dry. I could not really answer. And I started to stutter. And then I waited. I paused. I said, sir, I'm really sorry that I started off bad, but can I have some water and then start again? And that guy gave me a chance. I had some water and I started off. And guess what? I did clear that interview. So be humble, and people understand that you're students and they will give you a chance. So being confident actually helps you. Don't be that nervous to break yourself. All right. So even if you have made a mistake, accept it, honor it, move forward. What is the best answer if the interviewer said, why should I hire you? I'll tell you something. There isn't really any best answer, because recently when I interviewed about 3,000 people and I asked that same question, I got very different answers. And I really need to test the people about how they're speaking, not... So I obviously tell you what are the don'ts. One, don't show them that you're really desperate to get an opportunity or get a job. One of the girls, she told me that, you know what, ma'am, I'm being really frank and I want to become a singer, and which is why I am coming into this interview, and I want this job that desperately, because my parents are not going to back it up. So I need this job. You can't be that frank in an interview. Obviously, I did not take her. It's good to be innovative, to be bold, but don't be stupid. So the best way to go forward with why should I hire you would be a good mixture of the kind of skills that are required. One thing, a good recipe to cook up a story for this is, for instance, if the role is for business development associate, what I did was I went to Glassdoor and LinkedIn and checked for job description. So when you go on LinkedIn and put up a job description for any kind of roles, they give you qualities, what are required from a person in that, obviously for that role and for that company. So I use them for my benefit. So I saw good communication skills were required. Business acumen was required for procurement and supply chain. I looked for leadership skills. I looked for two more things, and I made up an answer. I cooked up a story and told them, and this is why you should hire me, because I'm a good fit for your company and I'll be an asset, not somebody who's going to be a liability and going to be a setback, because I haven't really been a setback. I'm the one who comes forward with ideas, and if not, I'm a good listener. And the listening skills was also one of those things that were mentioned. So that can actually give you a good way to start off a conversation, or maybe prepare your answer as to why should people hire you. Look forward to it. And again, I'm saying, stop being spoon fed. The more you research, the more you do your self learning, the better you prepare yourself for whatever opportunities or obstacles that come across your way. If they ask why should we hire you among all, so what will be the answer? I think that answers the same thing. You don't really have to rely on what others are speaking. And I'm telling you something, guys, mostly people go away with what their friends talk, and they rely on what the others are talking. I'm again telling you, be your own judge, make your decision very well informed by the kind of backing that you have. I'm again telling you, Glassdoor is very, very good opportunity for you guys. It's a very good platform wherein you can read about what kind of questions people ask in the interviews, how people react to the interviews, if they have accepted the offer, if they even have got the offer. LinkedIn job description is something that you need to read well before you actually give the interview. When they ask you why you want to join your company, so what would be the answer? That really depends on you, Shubhi. Why you really want to join the company? It can't be a ratified answer, or nobody else can tell you. You need to know about why do you actually want to join the company. It again depends on the kind of job description that it is. For instance, I like the sales and marketing job role more than the technical one that were being there offered. The other one that I had was for a business analyst, and the other one was a coder. So when I started to look up, what is the role actually about, so I made up my own answer. And for instance, for Zycus, obviously this was something that, as I mentioned before, business, supply chain, and business development was something that I was very keen on to. And I was a good orator. I had participated in a lot of debate competitions in my time. I started to prepare my resume from the second year itself, because I was always in touch with my third year, fourth year seniors. I see this thing a lot of these days, that people don't really interact with their seniors because I don't know. But I had a lot of interactions with them, specifically with the TNP folks. I made sure that I volunteered because that gave me a lot of exposure. And those kind of things actually add on. You don't really get to understand at that very moment, but the kind of exposure you get from these kind of things, it ensures and it gives you a lot of confidence, because you know better than the others. It's not because you need to become arrogant about it, or be to ensure that you outsmart the interviewee. That's not the case, but that actually helps you to be very confident. And again, I'm telling you, when I go for recruiting people, the three things that I actually look for is confidence, presence of mind, and innovation. How good you are on your feet. That's something that's really important. Another myth that people have is the fact that only higher percentage or topper people get jobs. I really want to burst that bubble. That's not the case. Again, it obviously, I do not mean to say that you start to get a lot of backs and think that you're going to get a job. That's not the case. But yes, what you speak, how well you are versed with the world and with the company that's coming in, that's going to take you forward. Because once you cross the eligibility criteria that the company has, you all become one. I am not going to look for any kind of candidate on the basis of what their marks were, maybe in 10th or 12th standard. I'm going to look about what do you know about my company, how can you be a good asset to it, how can you be a good asset to my team. All right. What are the gestures we have to take care while giving an interview? All right. So while giving an interview, make sure you're not very animated. When I say animatic, don't be like, hello sir, how you doing? I am this, I am that. So you can't really go haywire. Make sure you're calm, you're composed. And another thing, when you sit tight crossed hands, it actually shows that you are very narrow-minded and you're not going to listen to me. That's one of the gestures that we were taught while we were preparing for the interviews. Make sure you're sitting very cool and calm. Have your hands in the lap. You're sitting straight front. Talk to the person into the eye. And be normal, like you talk to your friends. You don't have to have any kind of animated gestures or something that's plastic, because that's just gonna maybe work for a day, an hour for the interview, but then obviously it's gonna go off when you join the company, if in case you get selected. So I would really say the gestures thingy is something that you need to make sure that you, because interviewers make sure that they put a lot of pressure on you and you retaliate and you become aggressive so that you react a lot. Make sure you don't do that. If you don't know an answer, say you don't know it. Don't try and cook up stories and beat around the bush to tell them, to make sure that you're speaking. So in an interview, it's not necessary for you to speak every time. Think about what you're going to speak and how you're going to speak, and that's what matters. If you don't know, say you don't know. If you need to take some time to think about it, ask them that, you know what, sir or ma'am, I think, can I take like 10 seconds? I need to think about it. Would that be okay? Okay, tell us something about your technical project which you mentioned in the resume. I don't know how it's going to be related to how we're preparing for the interviews, but if you have that kind of question, Saurabh, I made a digital hearing aid at that point in time in my project, a digital hearing aid that would ensure that was a cheap one, because it would be accessible to a lot of folks, because one machine costs around 75,000 to maybe 3 lakh or 4 lakh. That's the range for hearing aids. And a digital hearing aid could, with MATLab's help, I made sure that has more noise cancellation, and that could be tested through color graphs. So that's what my project was at that point in time. Does that answer your question? All right, I need to tell you about the don'ts of the interview. One thing that a lot of people do is, when they're trying to think a lot, they do a lot of let me think about it. So try and make sure you do not do that much, and that's gonna come only through practice. And I'm again telling you guys, you need to make sure that you are talking with your friends in English, because that's something that is really important in this world, and that's not really related to just Zycus or maybe other companies. They all want good people to work in MNCs. So as much as you practice, you're gonna get better. And there's really no age, there's really no restriction, and there is no deadline. So you can even start today and become a better orator. Also, while giving the interviews and trying to understand about the company, specifically for sales and marketing, what they look for is value selling, not something that you wrote about their products. So for instance, if you're going for sales and marketing, and if they ask you, sell me this product, sell me a pen. So you can't really start to talk about the features of the pen, that, it's got a silver cap, a black body, which looks really pretty. That's not something that they're looking for. They're looking for what's the utility of this pen. So I can say, so you know what, sir, a pen is something that actually shows a lot of dignity in people. How do I say that? Because it's a very quizzical thing to say. So when you go and sign a deal, obviously you need to have a pen in your hand, and if you don't have it and you ask for a pen, that actually there and then breaks your impression. So if you have a good pen, say this pen, as smooth as it goes, you can sign it off there and then and create a good impression. The other value of this pen, so that's how you go about it. You need to talk about values more than the features, and that's what product based companies are looking for. They're not looking for features because they know the features and everything is the same. You need to talk about values. What type of skills do Zycus people want to see in students while interviewing? All right, good question, Prerna. As I mentioned, the three things that I look forward from the candidates is confidence, innovation, presence of mind, and communication skills. So in our job role, we need to talk to a lot of folks, obviously outside. So be it states, be it somewhere in UK or even maybe Singapore, we need to talk to a lot of foreigners. So communication skills is something that's really important. So when I say communication skills, it's not really an accent that you need to pose. It's about how you speak, your grammar, about the kind of content that you bring in, and if you can actually be a good fit to the floor. So always, whenever, okay, another thing, good question. Whenever you've been given the presentation about the company by the company folks, ask about their cultural team. Ask about, not cultural team per se, ask about what the culture looks like. I mean, for instance, Zycus has a very open culture. So there are no glass doors. So I can anytime go and talk to my director. I can anytime go and talk to my VP. There's no barricade. And there are a lot of events that goes on. There are a lot of incentives that are given. So those are the kind of things that I got attracted to. So ensure that you do not shy away, because again, I'm telling you, at that point in time, you miss the opportunity to ask a question. And if in the interview that question again pops up, which you were gonna ask, you're gonna regret it. And don't do that. Make sure you make an informed decision. So those are the 4 kind of skill set that Zycus tests. Major is your communication skill, because obviously we can train you well. Any company can train you. You will be given 2 months of training anywhere you go. But how well can you be molded into the company? That's what I take. I look into that's what companies look for. Can you be a good asset to my team? Are you the person who can think of new ideas? So why do companies hire freshers? Why don't they hire experienced people? There's a very basic reason behind it. Because we want fresh ideas. Everyone that comes into the person who's experienced, they give roted answers. They just give about the same kind of answers that they have been listening to or they have seen. They do not really have a fresh idea of what can come into the picture. What freshers bring in is a different ball game altogether. So we look for innovation a lot. And that's why you need to ensure that while you're preparing for the interviews, through Glassdoor or maybe other websites, just Google it. Make sure you do a lot of puzzles. So that actually gives you a lot of tips and tricks how to crack an interview, because they don't just go for technical skills or communication skills. When they test your presence of mind, they're looking for a lot more than you can think. So even if it's a technical round and they're looking for say C or C++ or Java, they're actually going to look only for your logics. And that gives you a better presence of mind. You can think more as you solve more puzzles. I hope that answers your question, Prerna. All right. Another thing, guys, that I wanted to tell you was when these guys are giving you the presentation, make sure you voice your opinion, because that's what is being seen and is being noted. When I'll tell you how this comes into the picture. So when we take a meeting with all the directors and VP, and there is a topic thrown to discuss, there's a business obstacle that we need to make sure that we have to adhere to, or maybe that's an obstacle that we need to surpass. We come with ideas and we voice our opinions, even if the VP or the director is wrong. Obviously it's in a certain way that we do it, but that's actually that they wanted from the freshers, right? They wanted more opinions. So Never shy away from giving your opinion. And I'm again telling you guys, don't be in your own cocoon. You guys have so many ideas that you just shy away from voicing it out. A little bit of confidence booster can actually skyrocket your career, and you can have a good career graph from the start. You wouldn't be one of those people who say that they regret they joined a company and that's something that they didn't want to pursue. Don't be that person. Make sure that you make an informed decision and be well versed with what you're heading into. Is very good coding skills required for EC branch? In what sense, Divyansh? What you're trying to ask? For you to get an admission in EC branch, you wouldn't need a lot of coding. But if you are from an EC branch and you're going forward with something that's more technical based, say Persistent, Cognizant, Wipro, they're coming in for computer skills person, then of course you need to have basic coding skills, say C, C++, that's the basic. And in fact, when I started to write in the interview, I basically studied for data structure, a little bit of it, and C++ a bit. And they majorly asked me for logics and not for the entire code. So I think they're still the same that you need to tell. There's one with an infinite loop that you can't get stuck into. There are questions based on that. There are questions based on palindrome. That's one of the code that I remember, and that's pretty much it. You really don't need to have a lot of coding skills, but if you are doing it and that's something that's a requirement, then obviously you need to have it. So say companies like, as I mentioned before, Persistent, Amazon, Wipro, Cognizant, you need to at least have basic coding skills and good logics so that you think on your feet and then probably give you a better code. So maybe if they ask you how to divide a number without using a division operator, how would you do that? So division is nothing but subtracting the same number, as multiplication is something you add the same number multiple times, and that's how it's like 5 plus 5, that would give you 5. 5 is twice the times, so you actually are adding it, right? So if I do not need to use the operator of addition or maybe subtraction for division, I can prepare a code with a loop by subtracting 5 until the division that comes in, the answer that comes in is 0, or maybe that comes in 0, and then you can have it. So those are the kind of logics that they're trying to know. I'm not really well versed with the codes because that's something not something that I was asked for, but these are the kind of questions that were asked in the initial phases for Cognizant, and that's how I gave the answer. I need to think about the logic than the code. What's the difference between arrogance and attitude, and the difference between indiscipline and creativity? All right, good question. Arrogance and attitude obviously has a fine line. All right, so if you know something and the person is trying to challenge you and you become aggressive and become a person who knows it all. For instance, if right now I become one of those people, if you talk to me about sales and you rather have a better point than mine, and I still say that, you know what, you don't know anything, and I'm the person with the best persona fitted for sales since I have the experience and you know nothing, so you rather keep mum. That would be sheer arrogance. And keeping up a better attitude is something very different, wherein I would be confident enough to tell you about what sales and marketing is, and right now how I am functioning in that zone for Zycus. That would be sharing wisdom, possibly, in the better words. Difference between indiscipline and creativity, I don't really think they come in the same way, because discipline and indiscipline is something very different, and creativity and innovation comes on a very different line. Indiscipline would be one of the interviewees that had come, they sat really bad. So the guy sat, and he sat like this, as if he was the one who were to interview me. And I even asked him that, why are you sitting like this? No, I just want to. I said, are you too comfortable in it? He said, yeah, I'm very comfortable. I asked, are you confident or overconfident? He said, no, I'm very confident. So those are not the kind of gestures that I'm looking for, right? And that surely is indiscipline and something that I did not wanted to look for in any kind of candidate. Creativity, of course, it could be in your ideas, it could be in your skills. For instance, you could be a good painter, you could be a good musician that you could actually have a conversation upon. And creativity could be the one that I told you, the example that I gave in. So there were two candidates that were given an opportunity to compete with the two of them, just to check their innovation and creativity. So they were given a piece of paper by the interviewer, and they were asked to do something in just 30 seconds, two uses that they could come up with. So the say girl A, she started to, with origami skills, she started to make up a rose, and it was already 20 seconds. But the other girl, she made a smart move. She just folded the paper thrice and said, it's a bookmark. And the interviewer literally started laughing, and he said, oh my god, you're so smart. But what if I have the bookmark and I don't really need it? So the other B girl who was making the rose was already gone. Now just the interviewer and A girl was there, because she wanted to be the best, but she wasn't there at the feet, because she thought a piece of paper with creativity could obviously use by this. So being creative does not really mean that it has to be a very beautiful articulated output, but it obviously also talks about your presence of mind. That's what I told in the beginning. So with that piece of paper, the girl folded into three and told him it's a bookmark. Then the interviewer again questioned her. You know what? If I have this bookmark, then what? She then folded it and in a different format and said that, you know what? No. Then the guy asked, if you can actually, if I already have a bookmark, how else could you use it in something different, in a very different form? She then folded the paper and tuck her hair in a bun and then put it across and said that, you know what, it can be used to hold my hair. And the interviewer was damn impressed by the girl, and she got selected. How to answer if asked that whether you're a smart person in an interview or not? I mean, you can then ask the question again to that person. How do you mean if I'm smart or not? Do you think I'm a do you really mean to ask if I'm a smart worker or a hard worker, or how do you assess smartness? So again, right now I'm trying to have a conversation, because I really don't have the right answer for what would be the right person to be a smart person in an interview. That's called parking the question. So it's a good way to park the question and put the ball in their court again. So ask them, so what would be your parameters to assess a person if they are smart or not? Then they would again tell you, and if you actually meet those kind of points, you can say by the pointers that you gave, of course, I come in as a smart person. Does that answer your question, Shubhanshu? Alright guys, are there any other questions that you have for me? Perfect. So to come up with the gist of what I've told, the three things that I was supposed to cover in our session today was: one, how to prepare for an interview. I told you how you need to read about the company very, very well. And sometimes it's very impressive from the interviewee's end if they actually go to their site, and if it's a product based company, ask for a demo of the solutions that they provide. So there could be two things. One, they could directly give you a demo and you can see the kind of product that they have. I recently started to prepare for my own interviews, just to make sure that what's my market presence at this point in time. And uh, the best thing that I did was, and how I prepared for the interviews was, to read about the company, then to read about the product, and then I went on to YouTube to check about the product, what people have for the as per the responses, how do people use their product, so that I am well versed with the kind of product portfolio that the company has. So I made sure I read about it. I read about it on LinkedIn. I prepared for the interviews by reading what's there on Glassdoor, and ensured that I was well versed with everything that I had, and made sure I had all the kinds of arms and ammunitions in my bucket, so that whatever comes into my way, whatever obstacles that I get, I could at least surpass it. It's very easy. You can actually prepare for an interview in just 1 hour. It really doesn't take a lot of time. You need to just be prepared with the resume. Obviously, that you need to do it beforehand. Once you're done with the resume, you know what you need to talk about. Make sure your pronunciations are right. That's something that's really important. A lot of people, for instance, say resume, and it's not a resume, it's a resume. Again, that would be solved when you watch a lot of English channels, say news, or maybe some good movies. You can start off by watching through subtitles and whatnot, but I would rather say you read a lot and then listen to a lot of news, so that you know what are the right pronunciations. So if very short time is left for you to prepare for an interview, make sure you go to the website. Make sure you read the gist about the company just through Wiki to go, because you need to know when the company was founded, do they have any investments or not, if there's any recent product that they have added, if there's any campaign, if there's any news related to the company. So when you Google XYZ company, there obviously is an all platform, a news platform, images and everything. So you need to ensure you at least go through the news and Wikipedia, and directly go to the website and read about that, the about section of the company, so you can get time to prepare for it. And every interview, I'm telling you, I kid you not, is almost the same. It's either pressure difference, or maybe the kind of company that would be different, but at the end of the day, they're actually looking for confident people who can stand in pressure. They do not panic and are smart enough to be there, upbeat, and can answer on their feet. That's what almost every company looks for. That's the basic. Maybe there would be additional skills. Say a technical company would look for coding skills, your logics. A product-based company would be looking for your business acumen, whatever is required for the product. Say, for instance, Zycus looks for procurement and supply chain. Say Browser Stack would look for your web browser skills. So you need to read about them a lot. All right. So that's how you can prepare if very short time is left for the interview. So obviously your introduction is really important. That tell me something about yourself. And sometimes interviews also ask you, tell me something apart from what is written in your resume. So always keep one pointer which can be your Brahmastra. When people such as me, I love to ask this question. Tell me something apart from your resume. That's something that stands you out, because everybody just ratifies whatever is written in the resume and they come across, and they just flip whenever this kind of question is answered, because it's like a rug is being taken off their feet. So be prepared for any kind of question such as this. Always keep one pointer that's not mentioned in the interview, in the resume. Thanks, Harshit. Yes, Prince. I am responsible for any kind of CXO engagement in the first co itself. So, be it the Chief Financial Officer, Chief Procurement Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, whomsoever I'm being connected to, be it through LinkedIn, be it through calls or emails or whatever it is. I am the first person to get in touch with them, and to talk to them is not that easy because you need to talk to because CSOs and CXOs are the people who are of the age of maybe 50 or 60 with a lot of experience, and we just being 23, 25 or 24-year-old folks, you need to have a lot of sense when you talk to them. So again, that's what I talked to you about before. You need to be a good value seller if you have to come into sales and marketing than to be feature based. You need to do a lot of secondary research, but that's something that you would be talked and taught about once you go through the training. So there's something called secondary research that you need to do about the company, and that's where you being a self learner comes into picture, because you would not really need a lot of help from the other folks, and you are the person who can talk about all of this, and you can be well prepared by just your own. So being independent is obviously entertained and being appreciated. Alright guys, I think this should be enough for today. Again, just to wrap it up, I told you about how to prepare for your interviews, your resume, your do's and don'ts. Your resume should be very concise. It should be just a one pager. Make sure you Google how to make a resume. There are different sites that you can check out. If you want, I could share a link later on, and that's how you can make your own resume. It should be very concise, that talks about your skills and talks about your projects, that talks about your qualifications at this point in time, and how can you obviously be a good asset to the company. Again, your appearance matters a lot. Make sure you're well dressed. Whatever you wear, it really isn't about you have to wear something fancy or gaudy. It has to be very subtle, and I would always suggest you to go forward with your uniform because you feel very confident with it, and be really crisp with it. So of course that will give you more confidence. Prepare for your aptitude, your written test very well, and start it off from now, from your 6th or 7th semester itself. Don't wait for the company to come and then you start to prepare for it. All right. Which side of company do you represent, technical or business? At this point in time, I represent a technical company, that's IT professional company, but I represent the business side of it. All right. Again, please guys, do not scream in GDs. That really makes no sense. Please be logical. Read about everything as much as you can. Be the person who's independent, who learns a lot, and who can be a good help. Before helping others, please start to help yourself. That's something that I've always seen. People panicking as soon as the person is out of the interview, and you would hog on to that person to understand what kind of questions were asked, because it is very pointless if you ask those kind of questions, because you are just going to make yourself very nervous, because you'll think that you don't know that kind of question and panic yourself, and maybe screw up the better interview that you could have given if you had just maintained your calm. So don't try and go to the Gyani Babas that are there in your groups. Please read by yourself. Go to experienced people. I'm not saying that your friends are not going to be of good help. Of course they are going to be of good help. How? Talk to them in English. Try and interact as much as you can. Consider them your good competition, and then have conversations with them with the recent topics that have come in. Obviously Google search. Okay, Harvard Business Review is also a good platform wherein you could read more about what's going on in the world, and there are a lot of GD topics that companies pick up. So that's also a platform that you can learn. So keep reading, keep Googling things in obviously a right fashion, and volunteer a lot. That would give you a lot of exposure, and that's how TNP actually helped me. And again, Anuj sir and Abhishek sir, thank you so much for the opportunity that you guys gave me today to share across. I think I actually exceeded my time limit. I was told for 1 hour, and it's already 1 hour and 20 minutes. I had a great time, guys. Let me know if you have any other question. Anu sir, is there anything that you would like to add before I would finish it off? All right. I think that should be it. Let me just ask once. Perfect, guys. I give you last 1 minute for any other questions that you have, and then I'll chow out. Thanks, Saurav. Thanks, Rahul. That would be Habib Buraham. I hope Buraman. Yeah, I'm really sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for the time that you guys gave. I hope you prepare well. I hope you don't be nervous. I hope you read a lot, and I hope you be confident. Is accent important in communication skills? No, not at all. Why would you want to pose an accent, any other accent, while you're talking to somebody? It should be natural, but obviously, mother tongue is something that we look for. That's MTI. That's mother tongue issue that we look as a parameter to screen off people. So make sure you just don't have that. Maybe some people have that typical accent when they talk. From maybe say South Indians have a typical accent. Those are the kind of things that we kind of make sure that we mold them a little. It's not how you just make them go away, but we just try and make sure that it could be molded well. So no accent is important. You just need to speak. You just need to speak well with good grammar, with good content. That's all about it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'd be signing off. Thanks. Bye bye.